It's a very, very rich show. Why have we got it here? Because, of course, it deals with gadgetry, lending itself to the contraption side of Heath Robinson's career. But this, of course, is by Tim Lewis. Tim, he will always acknowledge the influence that Heath Robinson Contraptions had on him as a kid. He says this in a quote. He says, if it's interesting, that's all I'm worried about. If people are interested. In terms of how you read it, it's up to you. What would Heath Robinson make of this show? You know, I'd love to know what would happen, you know, seeing Uncle Will come in here and have a look at this. I think he'd go a bomb on it. Children love it. You know, the fact that children, you know, when children are liking things, that's often an indication, evidence of something very interesting going on. Pan is a kind of figure who represents completely out of control, that kind of thing in mythology. But now he's been rendered as a machine. It's almost as if he's been tamed into a machine movement. But nevertheless, it's very unpleasant. You know, it stomps down like that. As the difference between machine is a divinity, is a god, but the juxtaposition of those, what is Lewis doing here? Here we've got a picture of a machine actually drawing God, the face of the god, okay? And again, you know, there's this business of humans, you and me, Tim, the artist, so on, the machine, the seemingly inhuman kind of operation, and then you've got this kind of juxtaposition of that with the divine. The mule makes the mule, where we've got an animal making a picture of itself. This is artist's self-portrait, but it's not Tim, it's not you or me, it's an animal. And so this conjunction between animal and animal as artists, animal as imitating and so on, raises a number of questions. Made out of wood and metal, you get a cat that is drawing a cat. And of course, the drawing of the cat is a cat that's sitting down exactly like this cat, and so it's very much, again, a self-portrait, okay? And it's mechanical. It seems to sort of suggest, you know, the making of art, the making of imagery, has nothing to do with imagination. It's just a mechanical process. Both the mule and the cat, they don't have eyes. So again, this implies mechanical making. The idea that you make art, you draw and everything, but you don't look. It's called one grain of rice. It dips in like this, all very, very Heath Robinson. And actually, I've successfully lifted only one grain. And then what it does, it drops it onto a checkerboard. The implication of games of chance. And that's called abducted planet. So how can you abduct a planet? You know, I mean, they're vast, they're huge, they've got their own trajectories and so on. But what he's interested in doing is put it in this frame. And he talks about this. He says, I use a cube frame to attempt to enclose a volume that would be entirely separate from the space in which the cube is placed and exhibited. So it's almost like he's wanting to give it to you, but he wants to separate it from our space. It's like he's caging it. Is that what he means by abduction? I've abducted the planet. Much of this is about, you know, especially with these cosmic globes and the way they seem to be crashing into each other, but the machine components kind of win the day and keep it all clean. And you know, much of it is about, you know, taking things like the universe and reducing it to machine-like parts. This is very much influenced by developments in photography. This one here called Duct. They are children here, running child, that with the strobe light that makes it look as if these men are walking around on a treadmill. This is an incredible piece, and again, it's about the mechanical, the electromechanical. It's about junk. What is it? It's booze and fags. Made out of this booze and fags is this beautiful, delicate butterfly. And the kind of juxtaposition of these two things, seemingly completely apart, is something that, again, maybe gets us thinking about the connection between the two. It's very much like a metamorphosis into these beautiful, beautiful pieces. Changes things, and I think this is what he wants to do, is get us to think, will we ever look at a Strongbow tin of cider, ever the same again? This work here is, again, very, very important, and this is called Philip K. Dick. And what we see here, of course, is a ghost-like figure negotiating a labyrinth of razor blade. And of course, Philip K. Dick is the person who wrote that book, very iconic book, about robots, how they engage with nature, how nature engages with them. Do androids dream of electric sheep? And as you know, this is the stimulation for Blade Runner. And Blade Runner is, of course, an illusions making here as well. Very much about the question of machine and nature, human and machine. It's called Crimson Prince. I see it as a dictator on a podium. It's got this red velvet, it's a very imperial colour. I'm thinking of sort of long evening gloves, that kind of thing. And it's looking at us, isn't it? It's pointing at us. It's looking, and then it's stopping, and then it's looking down, and then it stops to take it, just to make emphasis. And you've got this machine that's making this love image, a heart. And again, it's not being done by a human, it's being done by a machine. And all of these are implying that making marks, doing drawing at an easel in your studio has a kind of mechanical blindness, I think is what he's saying here in many ways. This isn't high digitalized automata. This is early industrial revolution stuff. There's very much that harkening, big old rusty wheel and so on here. There's a lot of materials that are crude and worn out and burnished. And this huge, lumpen, cranky, rusty, blooming heavy machine churning out in a mechanical, or like almost an automata, nothing to do with artistic imagination or anything here, but it's making an image. And of course, what is the image? It's a love image. Delicate gestures of love, but it's machine produced. And this, I think, has profound implications for his work. This is a case in point, where you both have the combination of machine, of fabricated movement, as well as nature itself. It's this recorded feather. What we see here is sheaves of barley here that's been picked out from a field. We have a bird's feather here, but the bird's feather, which wafts about seemingly in the breeze, as if it's blowing very, very naturally and so on, is, of course, operated by a human-made machine, an electrically driven mechanical object. And it's this conjunction of seeing how they meet that he's exploring here. What does that mean? Can we reduce it to a single kind of explanation? No. Let's have a look at another one here. This one, which the title of the exhibition is named after, Post-Nature. And again, this conjunction of nature and machine, nature and mechanical device, is very much to the forefront there. What you've got here, you've got an electric motor, pulley wheels, and they form the basis of representing the lightness of a bee flying around. The bee is dead. So there's a slight kind of disturbing element to this. It's a celebration, but it's a flight that actually is so controlled. It's an unproductive flight. This is an unproductive bee. And what that might be for Tim Lewis is perhaps, some kind of consideration on how we address free nature in terms of our commitment to machine. There might be something slightly depressing about this. He obviously was very careful to explain that this bee was not killed. It was a bee that was caught. It was near his studio, and then he picks it up and it was dead. Puts it onto this wire that just does this monotonous, unproductive motion. All those kinds of certainties that we thought we had about artists, about rule, about chance, about animals, about nature. I think it's designed to make us question about the way we relate to each other on the thinking level all the time.